For those of you who love woodwork but always end up with a pile of scrap wood, today I'm going to show you a great DIY where you can use that scrap wood for something useful, like a custom side table. What you'll need for this project is a drill, a sander, some glue and screws, a clamp, a couple of pieces of scrap timber, some teak oil or linseed oil, as well as a paintbrush and roller set. Great, so I've got the layout of my table sorted out, and you can see I've placed it on a flat surface because the underside will effectively become the top of my table. Now, in terms of dimensions, I've got 500 millimeters in length, and I've already pre-cut my wood to a width of 300 millimeters. Now, in order to screw them together, I'm going to use some wood screws and wood glue. But first, I'm going to take the shortest length of wood, which is this piece over here, and I'm going to trace out a safety guideline. Why I'm doing this is that when I prepare my pilot holes and screw from this piece of wood into that one, I ensure that I won't miss out on the next piece. So now that we've marked out our safety guidelines, we can mark off our pilot holes. Now there's a neat little trick that you can actually do over here. When you're marking out your pilot holes, we're going to alternate between 3 and 4 pilot holes as we go from right to left, and then we're going to secure from left to right, so that when you screw one piece of the wood into the next one, you don't hit the screw heads against each other. So I'll mark out 3 holes, and then for my next piece, I'm going to mark out 4, and then continue marking all the way through. Now that we've marked out our pilot holes, I'm going to take this wood drill bit and drill right through the piece of wood. So I'm going to start on the right-hand side, and I'm going to place it on a piece of scrap wood. Why I'm doing that is when I actually drill through the piece of wood, the back end of my wood does not split out and obviously not look so good. It's time to glue and screw. So I'm going to use a couple of clamps on my flat surface to make sure that the underside, which is the top side of the table, is level, as well as both of the ends of the pieces of wood are clamped securely together.
When securing the wooden slats together, be sure to use screws that are long enough to pass through the first piece and comfortably bite into the second piece.
Awesome, our tabletop is taking shape, as you can see over here. Now it's time to put on the sides. So we're going to measure out the thickness of the end pieces of wood and then secure them to the sides.
For the legs of the table, simply use 2 pieces of shutter ply. You can drill pilot holes through both pieces at the same time. Once the holes are drilled, secure the side onto the tabletop using glue and screws.
Now that we've secured our first side piece, we're going to add a second side piece for added stability, and we're simply going to use glue and screws to secure it together.
Continue with gluing, screwing and clamping.
Remember, when you're screwing, use smaller 25 to 30 mm screws so that the tip does not screw right through. Now that you've secured your second piece of the side leg of the table, you can repeat the same on the other side. Awesome, so now that everything is secured together, we can finally sand it before we oil our table. I'm going to start off with a rough 80 grit sandpaper just to smooth out all the surfaces, and then I'm going to end off with a smoother 180 grit sandpaper. Now that our table is sanded, we can oil. Now, I'm using linseed oil, but you can use teak oil or any oil preservative. What I like about linseed oil is that it brings out the natural grain of the wood. So our table's complete. We've added a few light coats of the linseed oil. I'm gonna leave it overnight so the oil can soak into the wood, and then I'm gonna find a place to put it and style it up.